All right, so welcome again to another solo governance call. This is solo governance call number 10. We have a few exciting agenda items. We're going to start off with going over what's happening for this week's solo governance call. So we have the Stello core contract release 5, but I believe the authors of the proposal aren't here on this call, so we can skip on that for a little bit. Well, and then, yeah, let's go into the other updates, which is the transition to the governance repo. Um, so, like 2 weeks ago, we discussed we're going to move out of seller. Is somebody, if you have your mic on and you're not talking, would you mind? Yeah, so we transitioned to the governance repo. And so this is the new governance repo right now. We moved all the CVPs here. And if you see, we changed a bit of the formatting for the CVPs as well. So they're all like moved here and stuff. We have a new Cvp template. It's very basic. Basically, what we changed is just the preamble of it. And the cool thing about that is later, if, when we add a website to the picture, it'll kind of look like either, let me show you, something like either the EIP process where you can like, based on the preamble, you can like look up the actual number for CVP and stuff like that. And we're going to do the same thing as well with the CIP. Also, I believe Eric Eric showed another example with dips. So like the whole process around like the transition will kind of become kind of like this as well, like just like a nicer way of doing like finding all the different specifications, and it's just going to be an easier way to look at them and stuff. So yeah, we updated the template so that will be easier to scrape it later. And the other thing is all the issue tickets are like all the previous governance calls. If you go here, they're found here. We're gonna update as well the README. So the README file, we're gonna start putting all the links for the meeting notes, for the agenda, all the videos that we recorded over here and stuff with the governance working group. And yeah, Will, Elizabeth, would anyone want to give any update about how you're going with the whole, like the new specification, the transition forward and stuff based on our calls?
Yeah, I can give a quick update. So we, in the last governance call, we went over the documentation that we'll plan to put into this governance repo. And we got a lot of really great feedback from Toby Kuhlman and Eric Nakagawa. So big thanks to them for going through the document and reviewing it. From here, we'll be putting it into Markdown and then putting it into the repo. And then from here on out, the CGP editors will be reviewing pull requests as they come in, basically making sure that things conform to the new CGP template, and just making sure in general that things are clear. And so that'll be Elizabeth Barnes, Ronan McGovern, Chris Wilson, and myself. And so, yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, but we'll be editing the CGPs going forward.
Yeah, and also the process for becoming an editor is very straightforward. So if anyone else from the community wants to become an editor, you can be an editor. What it gives you is like merge rights over the repo, but like obviously if there's more than one person have to approve like what do you call it? They would have to approve like a pull request in order for it to be merged. To give you an idea, it's gonna follow. We haven't added that documentation yet, but it's gonna follow the CIP editor responsibilities. Let's see, where is it here? Yeah. So so on the CIP side, it's just me and James Prestwick who are editors. But like basically the whole idea is the CGP is gonna inherit the same CIP editor responsibility, which is read the CIP to check if it is ready, sounding complete, that it makes technical sense, even if they don't seem likely to get to final status. So Basically, if it technically makes sense, like any proposal that says, seller should like become a proof of work network, it doesn't really make sense within the consensus mechanism and stuff. So that's not necessarily like a valid CIP. And the same thing would apply with the Cvp process, and making sure that the title reflects the content, and ensuring it follows the seller's visions and values, and it follows the code of conduct. And most of all, we just want to make sure that, the spelling, grammar is all cool, and that it follows the markdown template like what Will was talking about, and that there's no formatting issues and stuff like that. And then what the editor would do is, we would assign a number, and would, like, as soon as more than one editor approves it, we merge it. And like for the CVP, just like after that, you probably want to go over on a governance call the same one as this one, and that would be like the beginning of the process, and allowing you, talk about it on the forums and stuff like that. Let's see. Yeah, let's go back here. The other thing is, I don't know if York or Martin are here, but I was hoping somebody would cover the seller core contract release file, but let's see what's in it. So
I can quickly talk to it if you want to.
yeah, okay, cool. Well, let me link to it. Where is it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not, I mean, it's, I would say the CGP itself should hopefully be mostly self-explanatory, but the primary content of this particular release is really just the addition of the new Grandamento contract, which allows the minting of larger amounts of stable value, specifically in stable token euro. And that's what's reflected in the change log. And so I think we've talked about Grandamento in previous, I think either governance or all core dev calls. I think there was a lively conversation on the forum that you could follow that talked a little bit about trade-offs with respect to implementation that I'm not going to repeat here. And then there is a minor change in the validator's contract to facilitate easier testing for the blockchain team. Yeah, beyond that, if there are any questions, of course, I'm happy to answer. But the goal is to roll this out in the next few weeks on the test nets, and then eventually on mainnet in, I believe, about 2 or 3 weeks.
Got it. And is it so my question, is it separate than the CVP for Grandamento, or would Grandamento CVP be part of the core contract release file?
I believe this will deploy Grandamento with the initialization values. So I think once this release goes through, Grandamento will be effectively deployed, and I guess the CIP 38 will be quote unquote effective. So I don't think there is a separate, transaction. I don't know if either Trevor or Albert on the call to talk about the multi-sig that would be kind of governing this particular contract, but there will be one that I believe will be part of the initialization parameter.
Yeah, I think Albert mentioned there's going to be a multi-sig. Yeah, I think that's great. Maybe we should have post more about that information on the forum post. I believe that there's a forum post for it. But I just want to give the opportunity for other people to ask questions. Anyone has any question about contract release 5?
Nam, let me jump in with a clarification. As far as I understand, Grandamento is going to be enabled, but the limits are going to be set to 0 for all the stable coins. So it needs a follow-up governance proposal to be actually fully usable.
Got it. Thanks.
Does Grandamento need to be enabled as a reserve spender in order to function?
Yes, but I think that was part also of the reserve smart contract upgrade.
Okay, so wait. So is it already dead? It's already dead. The proxy for Grandamento is already designated as a reserve spender. Is that accurate to say?
I actually don't remember how to implement this, or if this is going to be also be part of a follow-up implementation. I'll check that out.
Okay.
Are there any more questions about this? Okay. Ronan saying there's a multi-sig. Does CIP 38 undergo audit? Do we have any audit for CIP 38?
Well, like all contract releases, the change set to the core contracts are being audited by Open Zeppelin. I believe they're in the final steps of finalizing the audit report. Like I think the minor things that they found we have addressed, and you should see it reflected in the audit report that they will publish.
Okay, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true. Open Zeppelin always does for the core contract audits. So Ronan, for your question, normally we post the audit reports for Open Zeppelin before it goes submitted to mainnet, just, in case there's anything that needs to be corrected and stuff. But like, it should be like, it will be linked here and on, I believe it will be linked, yeah, over here as well and on the forum post once it's available. Do we know if there's a timeline on this? I think, yeah, like soon, I guess.
Yeah, I think Open Zeppelin just had a few like everyone like summer vacation kind of like time delays, but I believe they said they will do it very shortly. We've already addressed, we've done all the work to address the issues that they found, so it's a matter of like just writing it up.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, the auditors need a break. It's been a hardcore year of auditing due to DeFi craziness. But cool. Is there any more questions anyone has about Celo Core Contracts 5? I think we have there should be like a forum post. Let me see if there's a forum post where people can take their question offline. Oh, there isn't. Okay. So I'm trying to find where it is. I'll try to link you all to the forum post in a bit and stuff so we can take that kind of conversation offline. And then, okay. All right, we'll link it in a bit. Let's continue with the agenda item. So yeah, finally, there's another part of this, which is the governance approver list and process feature. So let me try to find it. But part of the governance process includes before something gets submitted for voting, there's a process called an approver list. And the approver list is, let me try to find it for you. It's 3 out of 9 multisig. Let's see where it is. Yeah. Yeah, so if you look here, I'm gonna link it to everyone for your easier reference. So if you look here, so like the role of the approver is the multisig with 9 like addresses, and it needs 3 out of 9 to pass a proposal, not to approve it per se to be executed, but to approve it at least to go into the referendum stage where people can vote on it and stuff. So currently, this is the only outstanding piece out of the entire new specification built by the governance working group, which is Will, Elizabeth, Ronan, and Chris, who specified it. So that's the only missing piece about the coordination around this and potentially transparency around this. So I'm working with the C Labs folks about how best can we make it more transparent and stuff so that people know who the approvers are and stuff. The reason for that is in an ideal process, if somebody wants to submit a governance proposal and they're not like they're an independent party, they should know who to alert to tell them that, hey, I'm submitting this governance proposal and stuff, so they can coordinate with them, which are the approvers and stuff, so that they know the intention that there's something being submitted. And so while we're working on this, one other thing is potentially maybe I can take it to the floor to ask people, given that in the documentation it says maybe this will move to a DAO in the future, I want to see what people think about this. If this is something that we can make more transparent, if it's something that we can like improve the process on, if we can nominate people to be part of the approver and stuff like that. So I just want to take that opportunity to, give it to the community to talk about the approval process. Any feedback?
Why is this step needed?
Was the question, where is this stuff needed?
No, just why is it needed?
Why is the approval process needed?
Yeah.
For security reasons, because sometimes, let's say if you're a malicious actor, you can submit a governance proposal that might harm the ecosystem. And if you coordinate with like potentially malicious whales, they can vote it into existence, and that can really harm the core contracts and stuff. So at the very least, having an approval process for security reason is important for the protocol at the stuff. And but at the same time, having a transparent approval list system is also like important for the protocol, because it's kind of like if you're members of Congress, if you will, or something like, in crew governance, you know who the members are and stuff like that. And maybe if there's a way to process around making a DAO around it, stuff like that, maybe that would work as well.
But isn't there a step after the referendum where it can still be blocked because it needs another multi-sig after the referendum? Or am I wrong about that?
After the referendum, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, if it passes, anyone can execute the proposal.
That's correct.
Okay, so there's nothing to stop it once it gets to referendum.
There's actually also another feature as well that Prover helps with, is that in the implementation, there's kind of this adjusted participation threshold for like what a quorum of voters on the network is. And if proposals make it to the referendum stage and then fail, then they actually drive down the quorum. And so that's another secondary reason, in addition to the primary reason that Yaz mentioned, that the approval process is like important to secure the security of the governance process. It's really like the whole intention basically is to have it be where like obviously malicious proposals would fail to be approved, but any good faith proposal would always make it pass. That's the intention, at least.
Okay. Is there any more feedback on this process? So my next step is to, like, I'm currently working with the multi-sig owners to attach their name and their address if they're comfortable with that. At the same time, just for transparency reason and having skin in the game, normally if this is kind of like, if this is an approval process around a DAO, let's say, just a regular DAO that doesn't really impact the layer 1 protocol, some pseudonymity is okay, especially if that account is like a well-known account and stuff. But because this is governing a whole layer 1, like the entire blockchain, there's something that, at the very least, making it transparent will make it easier for people to at least coordinate and contact them. And the second reason is it will make it easier to email them. Like, let's say you can imagine something like approver.governance@stello.org as a group mailing list. And anytime somebody wants to submit a proposal, they can just email that email with that, or that it can automatically send that email, and folks can be notified on the approver list and stuff, and they can coordinate. Because a lot of that coordination happens off-chain rather than on-chain. On-chain is just like a formality, like, just to make it transparent. Gab is asking, where are we at in the process of making the approver list public plus transparent? So far, I have 3 out of 9 gave me a thumbs up to make their profiles public. But I'm not going to publicize anything until I get all 9 and stuff. And so it's been a slow process, quite frankly. But like, I'm hoping that we can get something ready and stuff.
I just want to like point out that if at any point the community is like unhappy with the approver multisig, governance itself has the ability to set the approver to be a different address. So,
Oh,
I mean, I think the approver, I guess the ironic thing is that the approvers would have to approve that governance proposal, but I think, yeah, like fundamentally governance is able to change the approver address.
that's cool. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I definitely agree. I definitely agree that approvers should be public over time, which means that like, you know, if we have some approvers that don't want to be made public, maybe we consider like rotating to new approvers that are happy to be public. And also, if we have 3 of 9, it's actually enough to form a quorum, basically. And so, as long as those approvers are okay with it, it might be a good idea to like go ahead and publish those profiles ahead of time. That way, you know, if someone's trying to get a proposal passed, they can at least connect those 3.
Yeah, I agree. There's been some folks who talked about like security concerns and stuff for publicizing their name, but I don't see how much of a security concern that is, given that it's no different than, I mean, like if you're somebody who has a credit card and you're worried that you might get mugged or something, and if an attacker wants to, they would need to find 3 out of 9, and you can always bump up the security by increasing the quorum from 3 out of 9 to 5 out of 9. So that makes it hard to attack the address and stuff. But Victor, you think about attacks more often, so maybe you have some thoughts on that as well.
I guess first of all, I totally understand people who feel uncomfortable with their names being published associated with this process. Like, I definitely like. I'm not sure if I would necessarily want that personally. Which I guess reveals that I'm not an approver. But basically, like I totally understand that as like a person on a personal level. The other thing is like, as far as the bumping it up goes, we really shouldn't bump up the threshold because like I said before, the process is designed to basically be somewhat censorship resistant, and the fact that like any good faith proposal should pass this process. And the lowish threshold of 3 of 9 is kind of set with that in mind, where any 3 of the 9, as long as they agree, can get a proposal past the approval step. And so you would need a total of 7 people being opposed to a proposal in order to actually block it.
Interesting.
So that's kind of by design. The reason why the threshold being like relatively low is definitely part of the system.
Cool.
Yeah, I would like to add that I do think it is a valid security concern because it's equivalent of saying that like, hey, I have this key that has a lot of power, and like you effectively doxing yourself to basically say like, hey, like if you know who I am, you know that like getting through me will give you access to a certain amount of value. I think is to me at least a valid concern to prefer not to, just to prefer to stay private. And then I guess to answer, I think Ronan's question, I don't know that there's too many layer 1s that have explicit multisigs for approval, but I think the motivation was because there are examples of attacks that basically attack governance, where governance proposals have been like kind of like shadowed through, and that's something that I think a multisig is a reasonable approach in the beginning of a network to be more conservative with what kind of approaches go through. Because I think if we do end up in a situation in which a good faith governance proposal doesn't get through, then at least it's all like, no, we can make public awareness for it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense as a protective measure. I guess in the long term, it would need to be considered in the context of overall governance and things like Vitalik Buterin's post there this week about coin-based voting systems and the issues there. So I guess there's like the whole holistic question that's outstanding, but I think short-term makes sense for what you said.
Yeah, I think also the one thing to recognize is, or like to maybe remember, is that this was, I guess, effectively conceived like more than a year ago with like the early age of the network. And I think governance calls like this are a perfect opportunity to reassess the constraints of governance and what changes we may not want to recommend to the process itself.
Yeah. Yeah, I also like the post by Vitalik because at the end of the day, I think like minimizing what you can change through governance kind of like, protect the ecosystem in general a lot more, because the harder it is to change the value, the more like resilient the network is against, you know, continuous modification of those values and stuff. Especially if they can be activated really fast and stuff. I do hear the concern on security and stuff. I think though transparency always comes with like an issue of like, you know, like it's always going to be a security concern when there's like a lot of transparency. Um, and yeah, so I think this is a good discussion. I don't know if anyone else wants to add more to the discussion, but maybe this is something that we can maybe scope out as part of like the like a working group and stuff like that, or what do y'all think? Is this something that we want to like continuously explore and stuff, like a process, like a handoff process? Sorry. Because now you mentioned the idea that, you know, if we're not happy with the multi-sig as it is, we can using the multi-sig approvers, we can change to another system and stuff. Maybe this is something that we can create a proposal for if everyone feels like we can, like we want a more transparency, or maybe like the first easy step is just making the multi-sig transparent if the individuals are comfortable with it, and then a further step would be either a DAO or something else that is more like allow, you know, members of the community as well to participate and like, you know, facilitate this kind of process.
I would say probably the easiest thing is to just like continue the process as you've done to identify the members on the current multisig who are happy with being public, and then with the ones who are not, we can consider getting a list of volunteers that would be trusted by the community to basically be rotated in. And then I think we can have that conversation on a forum post or something. I don't know that we need a full-blown governance proposal to, I think, yeah, change to, I guess, a like more governable multi-sig.
Okay, that's a good call. So you're saying a forum post where we can continue the discussion and like brainstorm what kind of ideas and stuff and where to take it from there would make more sense.
I think the multi-sig brainstorm that basically Albert did for the Grandamento multi-sig, I think is going to be very similar to, I think, the brainstorm for valid multi-sig signers on the governance approval one. But again, I would say, like, I mean, I know a fair amount of, I think, the current governance approver multi-sig, which are all very great individuals. And I think if those individuals are okay with being publicized, I think that's also a valid solution.
Okay, that's valid. So I'll create a forum post. I'll have it reviewed by the governance working group, and then we can post it basically like a two-step process, or one or either. Like we start off by trying to see if the approvers want to publicize their names and their addresses. And if that goes, maybe that would like, and depending on how the, you know, the conversation goes on the forum post, if that's okay with everyone, we can like put it on the back burner after, once we get that, you know, transparency, and we can document it. But if there's like too much of a roadblock to get that happen, then maybe that would be like another step where we can specify like either a DAO or whatever. I don't know if you all know, but I'm working with the DAO House team. They would make creating Moloch DAOs or any kind of DAOs easy to deploy on Celo. So I'm trying to work with them to deploy it on Celo and stuff. So hopefully soon we'll have better DAO infrastructure on Celo as well. But that can be a potentially second solution, or whatever the solution takes place in instead, given the discussion on the forum post. Is that cool with everyone? Anyone has any more feedback, any ideas, anything? Cool. Alrighty, I think that's it then, unless somebody else has any other thing they want to talk about for the governance that's not on the agenda. Okay, alrighty. Let me stop sharing my screen. Okay. So yeah, well, thank you everyone for another governance call with the Celo community. I'm Yaz. Thank you all for attending. We're gonna send out another invite for a future governance call as soon as we have more updates on the proposals. One will be for update from the working group about the new process once it becomes a markdown file that we can publicize on GitHub. And then hopefully once we get the audits from Open Zeppelin, we'll cover it as well, and any other future CVP. I'm thinking maybe Albert might want to talk about Grandamento in more details and stuff as soon as we get closer to the core contract release. But anyway, thank you all, and I'll see you next time. Take care.